What is flag planting and how can flag planting be one of your most effective marketing strategies? So, here's the problem. There's a whole lot of people out there in the world, in the World Wide Web, who are just kind of floating around looking for stuff, talking about stuff, exchanging stuff. And in many cases, these people are looking for a home or a place to go. They're looking for a place where they connect with other people. They're interested in certain things, but it's not obvious where they can go to find that stuff. So what flag planting is basically planting a flag and letting people rally around that flag. So what you're doing is you are planting a flag and you're declaring yourself an authority or an expert in that thing. And here's the interesting thing with the internet. You don't need permission to do that. So let's say, for example, like me, you are into triathlon, then you don't need permission to declare yourself a triathlon expert. You know, gone are the days where you needed to be some kind of qualified coach or whatever to talk about triathlon. You know, there are qualified coaches out there and world famous coaches who talk about triathlon, and they're great. And I watch their stuff and I follow their stuff, and that's cool. But that's not the only voice in the world of triathlon. You can be just a regular guy doing triathlon, and that's cool. You don't need to be someone who's at the elite level. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be even the best. You can be the worst, but you have a story, and that story is your journey. So you're just some regular guy who decided to do triathlon, and this is his journey. And you know what? For a lot of people interested in triathlon, that is interesting, because it doesn't matter what level you're at, there's always going to be people who connect with your story at some kind of level. Maybe they're people who are interested in triathlon starting out. They want to kind of see the journey and the path that you've gone on. Maybe they're people just passionate about triathlon and they love sharing that journey with other people. So what's important is you identify what is that passion that you have that you can share with other people. So you need to work out, you are the guy. What is that thing that people pigeonhole you for, which you're really comfortable with and you enjoy, right? You know, you could be the cake baking guy or the wedding planning guy or whatever. And I use the word guy to mean all people. I don't mean just men. I mean men and women. I'm talking about it in the generic term here, right? So what are you? What could you be? What could you talk about? What are you passionate about that you can plant a flag for that people will rally around? And as I said, you don't need permission. Don't wait to be picked. You don't need authority to become an authority. All you need to do is demonstrate that you're real, you're trustable, you're credible, and you have a story. So again, if you go back to cake baking, well, you know, you don't need to be trained in the top cordon bleu cake baking schools in the world. What the hell they are, I don't know. Obviously, my limited knowledge is showing here. You don't need that. You just need to be a regular guy who's passionate about baking cakes and want to share that and your journey and your trials and your failures with other people. And you will attract other people because there are, you know what? There are a lot of people on the internet. We're talking billions. And you don't need many percentages to make a big tribe of people to follow you, right? You know, so what the problem most entrepreneurs have is they go out there and say, who's my customer? Where can I find my customer? Quite often the customer's right there on your doorstep. It's the ecosystem that you hang around with on a daily basis. The people that you know that share your passions and so on. You know, it doesn't just have to be a hobby. It could be a worldview. You could be a libertarian or a conservative, or you could be a Christian or whatever. Whatever it is that you think is an important part of your story that you want to share, there will be other people out there in the world who think the same. You know, you could be passionate about Twilight books or Harry Potter. You know what? There are millions of people out there, and all they need is somebody to plant a flag, because the problem is when people are really passionate about stuff, quite often in their immediate vicinity, there aren't other people like that in their geographical vicinity, often they're surrounded by, co-workers and family and stuff, and they don't share those kind of passions. But what you're doing by planting the flag is you're joining the dots for these people. You're giving people a home to come to. So, you can have people from India or from Japan or from America, and they share more in common than they do with people, next to them in the street, right? So a guy in Japan and a guy in America who share a passion for triathlon have more in common and feel more of a bond and a connection than the guy in Japan and his neighbor, right? So how do we work this as a marketing tool? So the key here is planting a flag and setting yourself up as an authority. And really, that is very straightforward, just by simply sharing your story. But what we have to do is we have to take that and put it into the marketing funnel. So what we're trying to do here is we are trying to convert strangers into customers and customers into fans. And this is all in the marketing funnel video. But for now, in the context of flag planting, what you want to do is, whether it's setting up a blog or a video or whatever, we'll talk about the options in a minute. Whatever you do, the objective of your interaction with people is to establish trust, build trust with them, build a relationship, build a dialogue with them, and push them through that marketing funnel. So when people come to your website and see your triathlon videos of the last half Ironman that you did, and all that video you've done about the new bike that you got, or the video you did about, when you nearly drowned when you went out swimming, all that kind of stuff. When people see that, the first thing you should be doing is not trying to then say to that person, hey, look, I know you saw my video. Will you buy my product? That ain't going to happen. We talk about conversion rates in the marketing funnel video. You're not going to get people to convert. But what you do want to do is get people to this top layer of the funnel, which is getting them to sign up. The first commitment is that small step from 0, not to 1, but to somewhere in between 0 and 1, 0.1, where they can commit. So the first commitment should be to get their email address. So they come to your website, they see that you are into triathlons. Hey, look, I'm into triathlon too. Do you want to get updates from me, or do you want to get access to this video, or do you want my free PDF about how to build a bike imported from China? That kind of thing. That's really useful to some people, and it's important that it's useful to some people, not everybody. Don't try and appeal to everybody. You might be thinking, why would somebody be interested in a PDF about buying a bike frame in China and building it yourself? That is a very, very niche group of people. Even within triathlon, that's a very niche group of people. But that's who you need to focus on. Don't think about, I need to focus on people interested in fitness and running and marathon and swimming. Maybe they're all interested in triathlon, because they're not. What you need to go is go niche rather than go wide. Don't cast your net wide. Go real narrow, because you will target people who are really passionate about this stuff. And you know what? There's somebody on the internet right now searching how to build a bike imported from China. Right now. It's happening. And if you have that page ready for them, boom, they will sign up to your email newsletter and you will have authority with them. So how do you do this? Well, there are a number of options that we have. Let's have a look at the options. The most obvious one, most common one, is a blog, setting up a blog and talking about your journey. Not a blog about your products. That's important. Talk about your story and your journey, not about your product. Because, the product comes in here at this level of the sales funnel. So if you start hitting people with the product straight off, you're going to scare them away. You can talk about the products, but you've got to build that relationship first, which is get them onto the newsletter and then build a relationship with them. So don't start talking about your products. Talk about you, because in terms of how people buy, people always buy from people. If you ever had any kind of sales training, and I had sales training in the day, and when you had to make 120 phone calls a day, that kind of sales training, pretty hardcore stuff, but you learn what people were like at the other end of the phone. You learn about sales pretty damn fast. It's always people first. People, product, price. If the person doesn't like you, doesn't matter how good your product is or how cheap it is, they won't buy from you. So it's always people first. So the key here with any activity in flag planting is to sell yourself first. And a blog's a great way to do that. You can talk about your story, you can share stuff on the blog and so on. It's kind of an easy way in, and it may not be good for everybody because, you have to do it on a daily basis or you have to do it regularly, and some people don't like writing, that kind of thing. So if a blog's not good for you, another option is to make YouTube videos. YouTube really being the only option. Okay, there's now live streaming video such as Periscope or Livestream and so on. But if you want to have people discover you, it's really important that you get onto the main platforms like YouTube, because, if somebody types in how to build a bike frame imported from China into Google, any video that has that kind of keyword in its title is going to come up near the top, and you want to be there ready for them. You want to show them that video of how to build a bike. And as we said, the key step in that video is not to then get them to go and buy your product. The key step next is to get them to go and sign up to your newsletter. Say, hey, look, thanks for watching my video. If you're interested in more tips like this, go and sign up for my newsletter. It's free. I share tips like this with people like you every week. Boom. There you go. That should be your next natural step, because anything else, you will lose people. Yes, you may get a couple of sales out of a few thousand visitors, but a few thousand visitors could become a few hundred people on your newsletter, and a few hundred people on your newsletter could become long-term a few dozen sales, and a higher value at that matter too. So YouTube's another option. What else do we have? Writing ebooks. Again, if you love writing, good thing about ebooks, get onto Amazon. Great platform there to distribute your ideas and establish your authority. Good for search rankings as well. Podcast, not so great for establishing, not so great for organic traffic, but podcasts are a great way to establish authority, because the people who love podcasts love podcasts. It's sort of a black or white situation with podcasts. Either people listen to them or they don't. People listen to them passionately or they listen to nothing at all. So what you're then doing, if you love podcasts yourself, get on there. I have a podcast. Get podcasting. Start recording stuff. Just talking about anything. Just get into the game. Hey, look, I'm going to walk you through how I built this bike. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. Not interesting to 99.9% of the world, but that's fine, because 0.1% of the world is a big market, and they are really into that kind of stuff, right? Other things you can do, if you can't write, if you can't podcast, if you can't create a video, set up a meeting. Go to Meetup and set up an organizer's account. I think it's about $25 for 3 months. And the great thing about Meetup is it has a ready-made audience of people interested in going to meetings. So establish yourself as an authority in this area by setting up a meeting. So let's say, again, you don't have a blog or anything, but you're interested in triathlon. Set up a triathlon meetup. Organize it in a bar or in a cafe or whatever, at a gym, and get half a dozen people to turn up once a month. Start there. Fantastic, because those people that turn up, they are your first fans. And they will attract new people to your blog and to your newsletter, and just build it from there. Interview these people. They'll become the content that you can use for a blog or YouTube or so on. That's how you can get the momentum and start building your tribe through flag planting. Last option as well. There's so many other options that you could use. This is not the end of it. There's only 5 options there, but there must be hundreds. You could go onto websites like Quora, establish your authority as the guy in Quora and so on. Some guys do that and it works very well. But the important thing that I want to impress upon you now with all of this is that with all of these options, you're going to look around and you're going to see other people doing this stuff, and you think, wow, these people are really good and I can't even match that, right? If you were to go onto YouTube and you wanted to do game walkthroughs, you're competing with people like PewDiePie with 10 million visitors, not 10 million visitors, 10 million subscribers to their account. You can't compete with that stuff if you're starting out. So the key is not to look at what else is going on, not to look at what other people are doing, but find the format that works for you. Because you know what? There's one format that works for you really well, and go with that format, and you'll try other stuff, right? and the other stuff won't be as slick or as successful as the format that really clicks with the way you operate, the way you're creative. You could be visual, you could be audio, you could be analog. So, meetings work really well for you. For me, I really like SlideShare, the slide sharing website. And that works really well for me. That's a great way to establish authority. But some people don't like that. Some people love writing blogs instead. And it's important that for me, if I were to look at an article which says, how to build authority with a blog, I've got to remind myself that actually maybe I'm not a great blogger. So, I shouldn't then try and invest a lot of time in a blog because it's not my strength. You've got to work with your strength here, not invest time in the formats that are not suited for you. So the key here is, if you don't know what the format is, try everything and see what works and stick with what works, and don't worry about the other stuff because, you're investing in low value return. Rather, use your time wisely and invest in the high value return in the format that works really well for you. But key to all of this, again, is establishing yourself as that guy. What do people think when they think about that thing? So, when it comes to baking cakes, who is the guy that they're going to turn to when it comes to looking for a recipe, right? That could be you. Because what's going to happen is they're going to go on the internet and they're going to think, I'm going to go to her website or his website. Or they're going to go into Google and type something. And if you're that guy, you're going to be the first result. And that's who they're going to go and click through to, not the second or third guy. So it's really important that you establish that niche and you establish where you are here and find that passion and be really focused with that. Don't be that fitness guy, because there are tens of thousands of fitness guys out there. Be that fitness guys for pregnant moms, or that fitness guy for triathlon, or that fitness guy for people trying to give up smoking. You've got to get real niche in that, but make it something, again, that you're true and you're authentic about. There's no good you giving advice to pregnant mums about fitness when you are not a pregnant mum. That doesn't wash. You have to be authentic. People will identify with that. So the key here with flag planting is identify the niche that you can be that guy for, and build a sales funnel such that every interaction that you have with people is pushing people through that sales funnel. Okay? And lastly, identify the format that works really well for you. Flag planting is a very powerful and effective way of marketing. It's a great way of developing inbound traffic, and you don't need to go out and have an expensive marketing budget to get customers. This is a way to get customers to come knocking at your door.